51, VTR 82266, Air 9566, take one.
My name is Victoria Winters. Collinwood Mansion, situated on top of Widow's Hill, has a long history of sudden and violent death. And once again it strikes, this time under my very eyes.
Have Carolyn and Miss Winters come in yet?
I wasn't aware that they'd gone out.
Why don't you go outside and look?
Oh, for heaven's sake, you worry too much. They're perfectly capable of looking after themselves. I thought you'd gone up to bed.
I don't feel sleepy. I do worry too much. Right now I'm concerned about Bill Malloy. Roger, something has happened to him. I know it.
You know nothing of the sort. Does Malloy have to ask permission every time he wants to stay overnight at Bangor or with a friend?
Of course not. But he usually lets me know. Especially since he's become manager of the entire plant. It's only natural in case I have to reach him.
It's natural for you to be concerned about your daughter's behavior, but Bill Malloy is something else again.
Yes, he is. He's the most reliable man I have ever known. And this is more than just spending the night away. It's the first day he's ever missed at the office. I know he would have notified me if he could have.
Well, do you think he's marooned somewhere where there's no telephone or post office?
I don't know. I wonder if we should ask the police to make inquiries.
Certainly not. I'm sure he had a perfectly valid reason for disappearing.
I should think you'd show more concern than you do.
Malloy's personal life is of no interest to me whatever. However, he was away from the office for a whole day. I have a feeling he did it deliberately.
What if something's happened to him?
Mr. Collins!
What's the matter?
Out there, at the bottom of the cliff, there's a dead man.
What are you saying?
It's true, Mother. We just saw a dead man out there.
Out where? Where do you mean?
On the rocks at the foot of Widow's Hill. It was terrible.
Oh, now calm down, both of you. Tell me exactly what you saw.
We were on the ledge, just below the top of Widow's Hill, looking for Carolyn's wristwatch. I looked over at the waves on the rocks, and just then the moon came out, and that's when I saw it.
What did you see? Tell me again.
A dead man. I saw it too, just as clearly.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Who was it?
Well, you don't think we went down there and looked, do you?
Roger, get a flashlight and go out and see what there's there.
Why should I? I mean, it's perfectly ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. There was a dead man. He was half in, half out of the water. Won't you please go and look?
Roger, we've one way to settle the matter.
Why ask me? What do we have Matthew for?
Hello?
Matthew?
Yes, Miss Stoddard.
Matthew, Carolyn and Miss Winters have just had a bad scare. They were standing on the ledge at Widow's Hill just now.
Why'd they be doing a darn fool thing like that?
It doesn't matter why they were there, but they looked down at the rocks and thought they saw a dead man.
A dead man?
They're
Collingwood?
both terribly upset, and I know they won't be able to sleep unless we know for sure just what it was they saw. Would you go and look, Matthew? Take a flashlight and be careful of the path down the cliff.
I'll do that, Miss Stoddard.
And then come to the house and tell me what it was they thought they saw.
Mother, you keep thinking it was something we thought we saw. It was real. Horribly real.
I know, dear. The light plays strange tricks on the water, and sometimes rocks appear to float.
It wasn't a rock. It moved with the waves back and forth.
Like seaweed, perhaps.
Uncle Roger, I've lived in this house all my life. I know what seaweed looks like.
Then you should know that it can bunch up and take all sorts of shapes. And move with the waves, as Miss Winters suggests so aptly, back and forth.
You don't suppose this is some trick of David's, do you?
David? What do you mean?
He seems to have death on his mind.
It sounds exactly like the type of joke that would appeal to my good-natured son. The incorrigible monster.
Roger, this is no time for your sarcasm.
I don't care what you think, Uncle Roger. What we saw out there was a dead man.
Couldn't it have been a dead woman? Isn't that what our cliff is noted for? Now, don't we know that way back in time, a bride leapt, fell, or was pushed to her death from Widow's Hill?
That's what I told Vicky.
And that some time later, a young girl did the same thing. This one, I believe, was a governess who had been brought in to tutor the son of the household.
I know all about that. And also about the fact that a third death has been prophesied.
It's nothing but a local superstition.
Well, they have a bad habit of coming true at Collinwood.
Why don't you girls go on up to bed?
If you don't mind, I'd rather wait and hear what Matthew has to say. He did say he'd go look, didn't he?
Yes.
I couldn't go to sleep anyway. I keep seeing that thing down there.
At least we've made some progress. The corpse of yours has now turned into a thing.
It wasn't a very pretty sight, and I know it was a dead man.
Why don't you go into the kitchen and make some cocoa? It might make you sleepy.
How can anybody sleep when there's a body floating around down there? Vicky, could I bunk in with you tonight? I know that's the only way I'll ever get any sleep. Sure. How about the cocoa? Vicky, you did see the same thing I saw, didn't you? I'm afraid I did. Who do you suppose it was? A stranger, I hope.
I won't even venture a guess as to the identity of this mysterious corpse.
Perhaps Burke Devlin drowned himself in a fit of depression.
I hardly think so. Until Matthew tells us otherwise, I prefer to think that Carolyn and Miss Winters are mistaken.
What if they should turn out not to be mistaken?
Can't we change the subject? Before they came bursting in here, we were discussing your meeting with Bill Malloy.
Oh, don't be tiresome, Elizabeth. I thought we'd finished that discussion.
Well, you said that Bill disapproved.
He's old-fashioned and hidebound. He wouldn't recognize an idea if it were formally introduced to him.
I realize he lacks initiative and intuition. As a matter of fact, I suppose you ought to know. I asked Ned Calder to take back his old job.
Calder? What for? If I were given free rein
If you
around
were
here-
given free rein, the Collins Cannery and fishing fleet would disappear from the face of the earth.
How do you know? I've never been given a chance to prove one idea. And now with Calder breathing down my neck.
He won't be.
Oh, yes, he will. I know his type.
He refused the offer.
Oh, he refused, did he? Well, maybe I'll have an opportunity after all.
If Bill Malloy approves.
Bill Malloy. If you think he's so great, why did you call Calder in the first place? Or did you call him for some personal satisfaction of your own?
Why should I? Don't be silly. Come in, Matthew. Well?
I went to the ledge at Widow's Hill and looked down at the water, as you said.
Yes?
I shined my flash down at the rocks.
Speak
There
up,
wasn't
man.
enough moon to see much.
What did you see?
Just to make sure, I climbed down the path all the way to the rocks. And then I walked along the water's edge.
Did you find it? The thing we saw?
I walked from one end of the property to the other and back again. There was nothing there.
But we saw it! We saw it! Didn't we, Vicky?
Yes, we did.
You don't suppose all those old wives' tales about ghosts aren't tales at all? That they're true?
I've heard tales about Collingwood all my life. There are those who laugh at them. But I've seen too much to laugh.
I'm sure you have, Matthew. Thank you for your trouble.
Are you absolutely positive there was nothing down there?
Positive.
Then your nasty old corpse was nothing more than your overactive imaginations after all.
Couldn't it have been washed out to sea?
Impossible. Not in the few minutes it took for Matthew to get down there.
Around Collingwood, nothing is impossible.
That will be all, Matthew. Thank you.
Yes, Miss Sellers.
Now that your mystery has been solved, why don't you both try to get some sleep? Roger, I want to talk to you.
Carolyn, you did see what I saw, didn't you?
I'm not sure anymore.
Would Matthew have any reason to lie?
Roger, do you think Matthew was telling the truth?
Why on earth should he lie?
I don't know. He acted very strangely.
Nonsense, I tell you. They saw a bunch of seaweed. Or perhaps it was an old sail. You know the kind of flotsam and jetsam that's washed up around here.
It's not usually human.
Well, you heard what Matthew said.
I heard what he said, but I don't know what he thought.
Well, he probably thought we were insane for waking him up at this hour of the night. Did I say that the girls had an overactive imagination? I should have included you with them. Why don't you follow your own prescription and go up to bed? Hello, Evans. This is Collins. I know you're a night owl, so I won't apologize for calling you so late. I wanted to know if you had had any word from our friend, Bill Malloy. No? Neither have I.
Stoddard, come in. Is there something wrong?
I don't know, Matthew. Is there?
Not that I know of.
It seems odd. Carolyn and Miss Winters were so positive.
It's a tricky light. At first glance, I thought I saw what they were talking about. Even with the flashlight, I couldn't tell from the top of the hill. That's why I went all the way down. It wasn't easy, not knowing what I'd find there.
What did you expect to find?
To tell you the truth, I expected to find Mr. Malloy.
Why?
His disappearance isn't exactly a family secret. He has lots of friends in Collinsport. All of them wondering.
What are they saying?
Not saying much of anything, just wondering.
Don't they simply assume he's away on business?
No, they don't. He was a man of habits. One of his habits was to drive into Bangor in his own car, yet it's sitting in front of his house.
Where do you imagine he might have gone?
I couldn't say.
It just doesn't make sense. He was looking into something very important for me. He just wouldn't walk off without saying anything.
No, he wouldn't.
Then what do you think has happened to him?
I'd I'd like to know that myself. I'd like to find it out before they start making a lot of inquiries up at the house. Tromping on the ground and taking pictures and messing around with things that don't concern them.
Yes. I suppose we have to expect that if Mr. Malloy doesn't come back soon. He must have known his absence would cause people to wonder. Why do you think he's staying away like this?
Maybe he was kept away by something he couldn't help.
Maybe. Matthew, would you mind very much showing me what it was you saw, so I can at least get rid of Carolyn's fears?
Come on. Do we have to go out there and look?
You said you couldn't sleep unless we were doubly sure.
I know, but I didn't mean for us to go.
Well, who else?
I thought maybe Uncle Roger.
He thought it was a waste of time before. He thinks so even more now.
Oh. I thought you had gone up to bed.
What'd be the sense of that? I wouldn't sleep a wink.
Afraid of the dark?
No, afraid of what I might dream about.
You too, Miss Winters.
We thought it might set our minds at ease if we went back and looked at the water. We might see what we thought we saw before, only now we'd know it was something perfectly natural.
Well, wouldn't it be perfectly natural if a body was washed up on shore on our property?
Uncle Roger, please don't talk like that.
Oh, I'm sorry, kitten.
We thought perhaps you'd come with us.
Now, Miss Winters, I've told you before, I have no interest in going out to Widow's Hill and staring at the water.
Matthew has been up and down the shore. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Are you intimating that I would be afraid of something? Of what?
Of nothing, Uncle Roger. So won't you please come with us?
If you'll give me one good reason.
This is where they were standing when they looked down. Over there.
No wonder they were frightened.
Tell you the truth, I was startled myself. There was a little more light then, and it was plainer to see. I couldn't be sure till I got all the way down.
Well, that's settled, and I can tell Carol and Miss Winters they needn't worry anymore. It's just a clump of seaweed.
I can tell them they needn't talk anymore, too. A few words dropped in the wrong place, and another superstition is added to the legend of Collingwood. Before the week's out, will have spread all over the county. Another ghost seen at Collingwood.
Yes, I imagine it would draw unwanted attention to us.
The newspapers rehash every little thing that ever happened in a lifetime. It's something I wouldn't like to see.
No, nor would I. Well, I'll go put the girls' minds at ease.
Do you want us to have this doubt in our minds, not being sure?
Well, I'm sure. My sister's sure. Matthews is sure. Isn't that enough?
Why won't you come with us? It'll only take a moment.
Because it would be admitting that there's a slight chance of what you're saying is true, and that I will absolutely refuse to believe. I would much rather have this whole thing forgotten about. Besides, I don't want anything of this mysterious death getting back to David. As his governess, you certainly are aware that it could cause irreparable harm.
You're perfectly right, Mr. Collins. He is very preoccupied with death. Earlier this evening, when I went back up to my room, I found he'd written death all over my mirror.
Well, I hope you didn't let him get away with that.
No, I didn't.
Come on, Uncle Roger. Please come
Now,
with us.
Carolyn, you're beginning to annoy me. Run along.
I'll have to go myself, I guess.
Merely to satisfy a morbid curiosity?
No, merely to reassure myself.
There's no need to go to Widow's Hill and look. I've just been there.
By yourself?
No, with Matthew. He took me to the same spot on the ledge where you stood. There was nothing. I looked down on the rocks, and there was nothing to see, I can assure you. Absolutely nothing. It was just a clump of seaweed, as Uncle Roger suggested.
Well, I'm flattered that you give me credit. It's the first time that we've agreed on anything in years.
Well, that's a relief. I could have sworn But if it wasn't there, then we didn't see it.
I'm sorry. I guess if I'd stayed a little longer and looked, I would have seen. I suppose when I went out tonight, I had death on my mind.
Of course you did. My delightful son had warned them that they were about to meet death. My son, the crystal ball gazer.
Well, it wasn't just what he wrote in my mirror.
What? What did he write?
The word death. I suppose he thought it would frighten me.
I'll speak to him in the morning.
No, I'd rather you didn't. I wouldn't want him to have any reason to think that I told on him. But it was more than that.
More?
When we were doing his lessons, he stopped and he looked in his crystal ball. And he said that he could see Bill Malloy was dead. And that you had killed him.
It's like nothing else except funny, and it's Love on a Rooftop, advance premiere tomorrow night, in color on ABC.